What is going on, guys? So today I want to talk about something super important. A lot of you guys are having issues with no-shows. You guys are having issues with bookings. You're having issues with lead quality. And you could probably fix that up with one simple tweak. And I'll show you exactly what we're going to do in this video today. That's going to be the tweak that you'll need to make in your sales process in order to make sure that the entire thing is as fluid as possible. Once it's as fluid as possible, if you start to see low show rates from there and different parts of the funnel being affected from there, that's when you can go in and do a more customized solution to use the generic stuff like automations and things like that. But first, you need to define what your sales process is. So this is basically the process that you need to have. The first thing that needs to happen, okay, is what's called a cold call. We're going to call this a cold call, even though some of it won't be exactly a cold call, but we'll call this a cold call, and we'll call this lead archetype. We'll call them a prospect. Okay. So, sorry, one second. Prospect. Okay. So this is a prospect, okay? And what you want to do is take a cold prospect, whether that's from cold calling, whether they came in from ads, doesn't matter how they came in, they are a cold prospect, okay? So you need to conduct a cold call. Some of them are called warm calls as well if they came in from your ads, whatever. But the idea is that you need to make an initial call to them, and you need to, pique their interest on the call and see if they have an appetite at all for that specific offer, right? So you want to look at, okay, so, are they interested in this? Do they have the pain points that I need, right? Do they have the pain points that I solve? And if they do, then great. Then my solution makes sense for them, right? So if that's the case, then you want to filter all the people out at this stage. What you're filtering out is all the people that don't want the solution, because you don't want to waste time in the sales process on the later stages with people that don't make sense. So the first thing is you want to take a prospect and you want to transfer them to a potential lead. Okay. What that means is like this. Okay. So you have cold call. What you're going to do after the cold call is you're going to book the discovery call. Now, you can also call this a triage call. Okay. Now, this is essentially a call. And trust me, people might be thinking on the video right now, like, hey, why are we adding all these additional steps to the sales process? This is going to solve your problems, I promise you. So after you turn the prospect, after you call the prospect, you then need to turn them into a potential. So potential lead, we'll call it, but just for the sake of this, we'll call it potential. So from prospect to potential, how you do that is on that initial call. The goal of that initial call is to schedule in the triage call. When you go to the doctor's office, you don't just walk through the waiting room and go right to the doctor, right? And get a diagnosis. No, first, to save time and all those details, they have an intake process where you first get a triage with a nurse. Then they're going to ask you about your symptoms and understand the issues and write the report. And then later that will be funneled to the doctor. And then that's when, after he's ready, that's when you'll be, called in, right? So you trust that solution more because it was more well thought out. All right. So the same idea is here is, you have the prospect, you have to transfer them to potential. And on the triage / discovery call, this is where you're going to ask them a bunch of qualifying questions. This is going to be, from here, we are looking to send the lead to the demo call. And this is going to be with the closer. So it's going to go from potential to interested. This is going to be their status. And then basically this is going to be demo call with closer. Okay. So this is the funnel. So a lot of people, what they're doing is they're going from the cold call, this initial call, they're booking this demo right away. That's the issue. And what happens is that sometimes it doesn't make sense to do that because you need a bulletproof system. For example, this is like our intro triage script, right? So we have like a lengthy question and answer section. We do this by niche. So, and basically that's just this one script. This call here takes about 15 to 20 minutes specifically for, the discovery / triage call. because we don't want to be wasting closers' times. Closers, especially if you want commission only closers, their calendars need to look crazy, right? So, like for example, this is one of my closers today, right? Here's another one of my closers today. So these are two of my closers. You can see their calendars are jam-packed. Now, for these guys to be happy being commission only, they need to have leads that show up. So all these appointments that we have here on their calendar, they need to be showing up, right? In order to maintain a commission only environment. If they're not showing up and they're not interested in whatever, then no closer will be interested in working with that. So you have here, this is, and I'm trying to maintain a really efficient sales process here. I'm not talking about spending boatloads of money on payroll to manage a sales team. I'm talking about having, offshore SDRs, okay, who are calling and making these initial prospect calls and then conducting the triage calls on their own. And then from there, after they book themselves for the triage call, then they then send it off to the closer and book on the closer's calendar. Okay. So now, obviously, you're going to have no-shows, okay, every step of the way, right? It's not an exact process, but the key is not, you don't really care if your SDR has no-shows. You want your SDR to filter through the shit and only put through people that are going to show and make sense to work with, right? You just care if your closers have no-shows, right? That's the real key, right? So just to be clear, okay, you have the prospect, you're going to call them. Whether it comes in from the ads, whether it's a cold call, however you're garnering the interest, that needs to happen over an initial call, and that happens right after. And then right when that happens, you then book that same SDR, that offshore SDR is going to book in her triage call, and this will be on her own calendar, and she's going to show up to those appointments that she's booking herself and conducting the triage, right? Going through every single question to understand the symptoms and making sure the pain points are there, making sure the money's there, making sure the qualification's there without wasting any closer time. So that way, when we send it to the closer has a deck, like a predictable deck to close on that specific niche, right? So with a specific offer, right? So it's hyper specialized, it's very niche, and this is the way you want to go about it, because from here you want these to be alley-oops, right? You want as many of these demo calls on the calendar to be closing, because from here it's as simple as they become a customer. Okay. Okay, so they submit contract, receive payment. These things happen in order. If you do this to your sales process, okay, and you just start establishing this correctly, you start doing this, not only are you going to close more deals, but you're also going to waste less time. Your team will be more efficient. And that's specifically what an SDR is for. A lot of people, like I said, are going from here to here. Don't do that. Okay. That way you're going to have the best closer talent if your leads are actually warm before they get on their calendar. And then that way, all they have to do is run through the demos, do what they do best, close, and then submit the contracts and receive the payments, and generate customers, right? So that's the key process. Now, if you just have your system like this, you're already going to see an increase in show rates. You're already going to see an increase in closing. You're already going to see an increase in quality. You're going to understand your prospects more. You're going to know about their pain points. You're going to learn new things about your market, right? If you have this system, right? And your goal is to make and remember, these are the roles, right? So you have, just to be clear here, you have your SDR. This is your SDR. So let's just go like this, okay, SDR. This is your SDR's responsibility. And then it's going to go to your closer, which we'll put this dude here. That will be these sections. So just to be clear, you have okay, so you have let's see if I can do this. All right, so you have these two sections, okay, for the SDR, and then you have these two sections for the closer, okay? So, and if you segregate it this way properly, you're already going to see a facelift in your sales process. Now, from there, once this is established, and remember, you need scripts for the cold calls, you need scripts for the triage calls, you need scripts for the demo calls and demo decks and all a bunch of sales assets. You also need contracts and things like that. But once all that stuff's there and this is working like a well-oiled machine, then you look at the stats and you say, okay, how many prospects am I turning to potential leads, right, every month? And what does that conversion rate look like? And how can we make that better, right? And then how many potentials am I transferring to interested leads, right? And what does that conversion rate look like? And what does that entail in terms of how can we make it better, right? And then you have from interested to customer. This is like, how do we make this process better? How do we close more? How do we make sure there's higher show rates? How do we make sure that people are closing at a higher rate? What kind of offer do we need to give them, etc., right? So this is like refining your machine. But before you start refining each stage, each transition phase, and like how to make them better and increase conversion rates and things like that, you need to first have the process in the first place. And a lot of people, they're not willing to put in the work to create all of these assets. Like, look, we have a huge 27-page sales script that is just for closing purposes, right? So, and that's not our triage script. So I showed you our triage script. We also have our huge sales script for the closer. And they also get a demo deck and a bunch of other assets to work off of to help close. And so you need to be able to make this a fluid, liquid process where it just goes right through and happens at the highest rate possible, right? You're going to have a lot of people coming in. Okay, your funnel is going to really look like this. Okay, you're going to have a lot of people flowing in like that. Okay, people are going to be coming through this system here. Okay, and very few of them are actually, like, not all of them are going to come out, but the expectation is it's not as wide and it looks more like this on the way out. Okay, so on the way in and then streamlined out the way out, right? So this is how your system should look. And if it doesn't look like that, you can ask questions in the comments, leave any questions you have. I'm happy to answer your questions. I'm pretty active with responding. Yeah, if you have any questions about this, let me know. But if you like this video, just go ahead, like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much.